Yeah, I'm here. I just got Ham's going to be late. Give him a few minutes, but we can talk. I didn't get to see everybody's questions, and I guess the flavor of some of the response as I went to get my coffee is that maybe the Rubio in China, it's maybe he's just totally wrong. Could be. I just want people to realize that change is coming very, very quickly. And I think there's I don't know what word. Momentum's the wrong word. There's a gathering storm, maybe, of consciousness around gold. And I don't know that it's going to happen overnight, because probably now that everybody's talking about it, there'll be a pullback. But the United States is in a vulnerable position right now. Should the rest of the world want to take us up on some of our challenges and on test us in our financial markets, I think. On the other hand, the United States is enormously powerful. We have huge resources. So I'm not trying to say that I'm actually not trying to make a conclusion on what's going to happen or where we're going, other than if they find out there's no gold at Fort Knox, I don't think they'll let us find that out. But if that becomes assumed and there's delays in delivery out of London and COMEX of gold and silver, and it won't take much to light the fuse of initially panic gold demands. I mean, everything's on trust. But if people start assuming, hey, I want my gold, I don't want to leave it in London, I don't want to leave it in New York, you got to run on gold. And the catch-up move for silver is it's going to be electrifying. Anyway, let's switch gears and listen to Ham shortly. Hey, Eddie, and Narad, everybody, I'm not trying to skip anybody. I'm trying to go down to the bottom quickly. Hey, Susan, welcome. Hey, Ricky, Joe, where are you going with that gun in your hand? Going down to shoot my old lady. Caught her messing around with another man. There you go, Ahmed. That's exactly right. I have a picture here. I'll try to put it up while Ham's talking. But you're absolutely right. That's a big, big thing. Wow, Ricky, that's great. In my fantasies, I sat over there this morning writing out, what if? I think if, I don't know if it's possible, but if GBUX went to, I forget what I wrote down, if it went to, I don't know, $50 and I sold it, and Railtown hadn't moved yet, and I think I used 40 cents. I forget. Doesn't matter. I figured I'll buy 13,000 Railtown if my 99 shares of GBUX goes to $40 or $50, Anyway, it's all fantasy at this point, but we'll hear what he pilot to the moon, love Doge and a long overdue audits, I guess. Yeah, it really could. Are you kidding, David? Elon isn't thinking clearly. They will have they'll have more than just that chick saying that he's got his 13th kid. They'll ambush him with a whole bunch of something. They got to get him off that trail. If the world found out that Jim Rickards, and I've got his book here somewhere. Jim Rickards makes a pretty good case that the United States was lending out its gold until it got down to this formula for our ownership or our claim. It's not coming into my head, but something about the structure of the special drawing rights, the IMF, we had to keep 8,000 tons of gold to carry our ownership percentage, either in the IMF or in the special drawing rights. So there's an argument that we do have our gold, but could you imagine taking the risk of walking in with live cameras? I mean, that may sound like fun, but overnight, the panic into the financial system, if there's no gold there, oh my gosh. I don't think you'd want to wake up the next day unless you owned 100 ounces of silver. Hey, Will. Thank you, Steve. That's kind of you. Scottsdale Mint, Annette. Scottsdale Mint CEO said large amounts of gold have been shipped to the United States. Yeah. It could be that our banking system, Trump, I don't know, are putting pressure on repatriating, whatever you want to call it, the gold we lent out, so that if there is a call to Tashkent, I don't know where the new Bretton Woods will be. We'll have gold when we sit at the table. By the way, it's really interesting stuff. If I'm going to fantasize. Oh. So if that gold company that everybody was asking me about, at the highest end, well, not even the highest end, but at a really high end of proof of gold, it would be over 6,000 tons of gold. It'd be right up there with Fort Knox. Fidelity let you buy GBUX on Friday. That's good. That's great. You're in. Hey, John. Well, he has that whole genius team, but it makes me think about what Railtown does. They have this AI that can replace people and time and clunky software with this AI model that goes very quickly. And maybe something like that is what Elon has to offer. If we find out we have no gold, the market would crash. Well, what they would probably say, they would scramble, then they'd probably announce that the gold is no longer at Fort Knox, but that our gold is held in the vaults underneath J.P. Morgan or, Citibank or I don't know. It used to be Chase Bank, I guess. But anyway, that our gold is held in New York City. They might say that. Something that's not provable. Not only can we see your comment, we can see your nose. We can see you, Mike. Is the SEC audit from Doge is what makes short cover? I haven't said anything from Trump would make finger go. I don't know. My view, what makes stocks go in terms of squeezes is losses. So as soon as people who are short the stock start having enormous financial pressures to deliver money or shares, and the brokerage firms who were carrying that position are in the same boat, start to feel financial stress, they're human too, and they don't have endless resources, so they'll buy in. That's when I think it happens. Is it caused by Trump saying something? I don't think Trump, I don't know, I don't want to be negative, but I don't think Trump is going to make a blanket statement on the entire stock market. It's too much at risk. But anyway, we'll find out. We'll find out. Oh, I want to see Gronk. Yeah, I've been missing my dog. I don't know. It's been about 2 weeks, has it? Or is it 3 weeks? But they sent me this thing, what I'm experiencing. I think I was in a bit of denial. I don't know if I've had anger or bargaining, but I think I've gotten to depression about it. And I go up to other people's dogs to see if I can say hi, which is probably bargaining. Oh, here he comes. Hello? Hello?
Hi, William.
Everybody's mad at you because you made them wait.
I apologize. I had some issues. I had to take care of it. And, everyone had to deal with me. I had my grandson with me.
No.
We had a little emergency today, so we...
What, he didn't have diapers?
We had an emergency room, so I'm okay now. I'm ready to go. Oh.
Is he okay?
It's not the baby. It was my daughter. But everything's okay now, so... Anyway, so I was running around, and I just got back in. He's going to be a good boy sitting with me. Say hi. Say E-I-E-I-O. E-I-E-I-O. All right, good boy.
Is that the next symbol?
Anyway, let's get rocking and rolling here. I have a dinner with the shareholders tonight at 5, so I'll go from here. I'll go to there, so I will be on time if he's listening. So we all see that Elon Musk and the DOGE, how do you say it, Doge? Is that how you say it, William?
I think so.
And he's going after the SEC. I've been hearing Trump is going to do it. Obviously, this is the way they're going to do it. I've been contacted from different people to send information to them. I will barrage them tonight with information going back to the year 2000. from United Airlines to how does Dole Food have too many shares? When I'm done with them, they're going to rip through that place from all the crime that's been committed. Trillions and trillions in companies going bankrupt and being driven out of business thanks to naked short selling, the unsettlement of trades. So we'll be doing that. So we'll be doing that tonight. I'll be taking care of that. I've been planning it all day. How does Dole Foods have too many shares? Can the SEC answer that question? Can the SEC answer the question how we put a truck in front of the SEC 15 times and the door and the lobby of the SEC and they never addressed it once? How do they let people who have been criminally charged with naked short selling just pay a fine and get off? I have all the stories, the history going back to 2000. Believe me, I will lead them a path that'll be unbelievable, and I'll sort of weave in Pat Burns stuff in the middle of it. So I've been planning it all day, and I'm ready to get going on that. So let's get back onto some of the other stuff we're talking about here. Everyone watched the attack on GBUX on Friday. I've given everyone the data. A lot of people have seen it. It's up to 1.7 million, 15 shares or something like that. And average price is 220 now. It's going up because they've been selling. They sold another 54,000 shares on Friday. Obviously, that 54,000 shares they sold was at the market. They didn't do anything but that. They did nothing but selling it at the market to us. So we've been so we're on top of them for doing that, and we will adjust and get taken care of these guys, and we'll fight back. I just want to tell people that when you trade in the equity markets, it's important to understand to use levels. Okay, we watched the naked short sellers. We watched the naked short sellers attack when the stock got a little too volatile. They need to create volatility, and we need to smother that volatility. So if you just try to think a little bit on how would you smother volatility and a naked shorted stock, and I actually have the perfect blueprint for doing it. But again, I can't tell people what to do. It'd be considered that I'm orchestrating something or doing anything like that, which is what I do not want to do. But the only way to teach you is to actually understand some of the things that we talk about. And shutting down volatility is the most important thing. Volatility has to go to the upside. The short sellers cannot let the volatility go to the upside because once the stock trades up, obviously they have margin problems. So you can see the volatilities always push it down. Stock traded to 874, and like clockwork late in the day, they came in with a 100-share machine gun, just like that. Sell 100, sell 100. They're looking for stop loss orders. Please do not use those. Because you can put a stop loss at 8. As soon as they touch it, they're going to take you out at $7.20.
That's right. A stop loss order becomes a market order.
A market order. That is correct. So be careful. You can do that in Apple or in these other names. But when you're playing with the stock like a GBUX, it's very volatile. They're fishing, so they sell 100 shares looking for a stop loss order, and then they're going to turn your order and try to drive it lower doing that. And since there's sometimes in a stock that is thinly traded, sometimes there's no bids in the stock. You know, people don't put buy orders every second. If there's no one standing there, they could have driven it down. If you had a stop loss at 8, they could have printed you at 6. So that's why you do not use them. Just be careful, understand it. Try to do it in a stock that says, learn how to do it in a bigger name, and you'll get the feel for it. I never use them. I don't believe in them. But again, if you do use them, be careful, all right? Because that's just an example of what can happen. And as you can see, the volatility, when it got to 874, they needed to drive it down as fast as they could. But this is very interesting. On the close, buyers came in and started to buy it back up. But little do people know that I know people that were trying to buy shares using an $8 top, like 5 or 8,000 shares. And the market makers were not filling anybody. They weren't moving, but they were not filling anybody. Now, I don't know how they got away with that one, but that's what they did on the close. And the only reason I could see them doing that on the close is because they had severe margin problems. Because what they did was very obvious to everyone that's been in the stock. I see the people on Twitter talking about it. Everyone's educated about it. So for 99% of the people that are around us, they all get an A for understanding what we all watch. Everyone understands these attacks. The attacks are here not to get a better price on your sale. Their attacks are here to drive it lower. They want the people that bought stock to panic out. So how do you stop that? Okay. And the way to stop it and take the volatility out is to pick a number and never chase it past that number. Pick any number, Everyone likes their favorite number. I talk about special numbers that I like. The number 8, for example. So, I have friends that are going to pay 8, not pay a penny more. They're going to stay there. And they're going to wait to see if these guys attack. So we all know, and they know, for example, I'll tell everybody right now at 4:15 Eastern Standard Time, I look for the stock as a professional trader. I see the stock moving back up to opening, maybe open up at 8:15 to 8:30. That's the price of the stock. Maybe 2,000 or 3,000 shares trades. So they're going to move backwards, thinking that everybody on this phone call or people that I know are going to run in to go buy it, to buy the dip. Well, they're completely wrong. And if you're listening, my friends, the people that I know, are going to stand tall at one number, and that's the number 8. They're not going to chase it up. They're going to wait to see if they come back down, which I don't believe they will. Once they see a wall of people buying it, it's like salmon trying to run upstream. It's going to be very difficult to break through it. And then we take the volatility out of the stock. And if the SEC is listening, the only reason my friends are doing that is to protect their interest. No one else is protecting us. We have to protect ourselves against the criminals. Now, I can't tell you what to do, but friends of mine, we have all decided on doing that. We're not chasing it. I don't need it at 9. I don't need it at 10. I don't need it anywhere. I'm not looking for to drive the stock higher. I want to stop the criminal activity, and the way to do it is to take the volatility out of the stock. They want the stock to swing to 9 and then drive it back down to 7. A 2-point swing gets people nervous. When the stock stays there at 8 to a quarter or 8 to a half all day, they suffer. We do not. They suffer. They need to get the stock down. They're looking to get you to sell. And we're sitting there saying, fuck you. We're not budging. And that's how you take care of these criminals. Whether the SEC is listening or not, we need to fight back. And that's a good way to fight back. You do your own thing. If you care, I could care. If you want to sell it, I don't care. That's your business.
What stock are you talking about?
Oh, GBUX. I'm sorry. So we're fighting back. I'm just saying that professional people are fighting back, and that's the smartest and the best way. No volatility. You can see it at DJT. They drive it down 3 points, then they come back and scoop up the people that bail out. They do it in GameStop. That's why I tell you in those names, buy the dip, sell the rip, because it's that same pattern. Finger motion, FNGR, does not have that pattern yet. It's been basically going sideways for 2 months after they did the deal at $1.50. They won't let the stock go up. They won't let it go up. They just keep moving it in the same spot. But that's going to come to an end too. But again, that does not have the volatility. GameStop has it. DJT has it. And now GBUX started to get it on Friday. All right. We've been expecting them to attack. We've been waiting for it. And now that they showed their cards, we know how to address it back. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to fight back. We know how to do it, and that's what we're going to do. So just to recap, just the beginning, we're going to go after DOGE. Many people have told me to what to send them. I'm getting it to them tonight. I'll take care of that tonight. We all know that Elon Musk hates short sellers. And this is the perfect way to get back at him because Donald Trump doesn't have to do it. Elon Musk is going to do it by going after the SEC, and he'll take care of the naked shorts. I will provide them with plenty of information, including the GBUX charts, each one. It'll be hundreds of pages of stuff, and I'll make sure they get it all. We've had the truck at the SEC 15 times. William, you've been there personally. You've seen it. You're right in the lobby of the SEC. William has basically been standing there, was nice enough to go over there. He lives in D.C. He was nice enough to go over there and sort of narrate what was going on. 15 times. Besides being at CNBC, Fox on 7th Avenue, the DTC 55 Water Street, FNGR in Manhattan down on Broadway. We've been at, you name it, I can't remember all the places we went to. The Washington Post. We've been at the law firm of Gibson Dunn. We've been at FNGR in D.C. We've been everywhere, and no one's done anything. So I think we've done enough whistleblowing to choke a horse here. But we're going to get it to the right people now. I think this is the right way to do it for Trump. He should have done it a while ago, but Elon Musk sending him in here with his team, exposing all the criminal activity and how they've been protecting these guys, I think it's going to blow it right open. And for those who do not have positions in any names that we talk about or whatever stock you follow, it's showtime. You need to find whatever hell you want to do because these are going to be life-changing stocks. They're not stocks that are going up 50 cents or $1. I'm talking about stocks going up $50, $100, $500. That's what you need to find. I'm not going to advise you on that. It's showtime. If you don't feel it, then you're an idiot because Elon Musk is now telling you he's going after them. And the biggest problem with the SEC is lack of enforcement in the right areas. The enforcement of settlement, the enforcement of going after the criminals that have been doing this stuff. They know what's going on. They know how big it is. I posted this story, for those who don't know, from The Economist in June of 2011, where The Economist said it's too big to fail, how the SEC, the regulators, are rattled by the amount of unsettled trades. That's from June 2011. So everyone knows. Chris Cox, the former chairman of the SEC, calls it fraudulent naked short selling. Everyone knows. And I have 5 or 6 people. We're getting all the information. We're going to get it down to them and walk them down the history of this crime. All right? There's many companies that make it out of this. All right, so we're in the right spot. I think we'll be okay. I talked about GBUX that has been short squeezed up. There's a little over 1.7 million shares short. Average price of $220. They've been averaging up. They would have to sell another 1.7 million to get that average way back up. They can't do it. In a stock like GBUX that has no options, there's no way to hedge. There's no convertible debenture. So they have a real problem. The story on this GBUX has been, I told you, the rumor has been coming out of Goldman Sachs. I don't know the people there. I hear people that have been told. I don't know who they are. I don't know much about it. But that's where it's coming from. And if guys that work at Goldman Sachs somehow are involved in this thing, you know something's big is coming. That's the only thing I can think about it. Again, so you wait and see. If you don't want to participate, you don't participate. I've always told everyone, the way to get involved in these names, if you don't have the money, you need to be educated. You buy one share. And this way you can understand it, see how it trades. The most important thing is when you have skin in the game is how you learn how to fight this type of activity. And short selling is unfortunately going to be part of this game going forward. So the only difference between a naked short and a real short is that the real short is never going to go 10 times the outstanding or 20 times the outstanding. It'll be monitored and be policed, but still short sellers make the mistake of shorting something they shouldn't. And if you learn how to buy it, and when the short gets squeezed, you learn how to trade it, it'll teach you down the road. If you never did it before, you're just going to make a mistake and give it up too early or hold on to it too late, like the people in GameStop. They held on to it people are still yelling for a GameStop squeeze. It squeezed 20 times already. If you're still standing there, you're an idiot. All right? No one feels sorry for you if you bought a stock at 20 and it went to 200 and you're still standing with it. Or you paid 200 for it because you chased it. I'm a firm believer of buying things that are going sideways. I'm not a chaser. If I do chase, I chase with small amounts. I'll give you an example. GBUX. I say every day to my friends, go buy 200, buy 100, just to be there. And this way they don't get hurt. So when they bought it at 870, people were buying 500, 100. These are deep pocket people. When it pulls back, they just buy more. And that's how you they call it legging into a trade. You just don't jump in like you jump into the pool. If you're going to buy 1,000 shares, you buy 33%. If it pulls back, you buy another 33%. If it pulls back a little bit more, you buy the rest at 34%. Or you can average up. I could pay 8. If it goes to 875, I could buy 333 there. If it goes to 9 1/4, maybe I want to buy the rest up there. So you can by averaging in and averaging out, you help yourself as a professional. Not every stock goes up like a rocket. There's always these little movements, up, down. GBUX had that movement. It went to 874, looked like it was going to go. And 30 seconds later, they were knocking it down to 7 1/4. That's how fast it changes. But that manipulation is going away. These blatant attacks by offshore criminals are going away. And that's what this is all about. Elon Musk is going to shut it down. On a different note, we follow FNGR. I follow it anyway. It's got 241 million shares. What are we looking for here? Well, obviously, if Donald Trump speaks or Elon Musk speaks, we're going to win no matter what. We know who the short seller is. It's Jeff Easton and his offshore buddies. Remember, Jeff Easton doesn't short it. His cousin does in an offshore account somewhere else. And so when the police come in, it's not me, but they all know the wire transfers, the phone records, will catch them all. That's 241 million shares. I've been documenting it for 3 or 4 years now. We know who it is. We know exactly what's going on there. And it's just a matter of time. The company did raise money. We weren't thrilled about it, but they did. They raised $5 million at $1.50. There's warrants attached to that, but the people that bought it have to pay for those warrants. If they do exercise them, the company will get another $7.5 million in the bank. So it's a good thing and it's a bad thing at the same point. I'm not thrilled about it, but thank God the company raised money because no one has to ever address it again. It was 3.3 million shares. You know what? Anyone who paid $1.50 for it, that's the floor in that stock, $1.50. Remember, that's what somebody put $5 million in at $1.50. Everyone on this phone together probably didn't put in $5 million at $1.50. I know people who paid 10 to put a couple of $1 million in at 10, and they're still here. All right? I have to call one of them back tomorrow, by the way. So again, there's different things. You got to pay attention. You have to remember what's going on. The history of a stock, it's like a movie or one of these, 20-show seasons. You have to remember what happened in the back. What happened 2 years ago. It's the same. You have to study this stuff. But I look at it as life-changing, and I'm happy to say that I hope that people that do get in lately on the last end of this thing, well, good for them because they caught they're in the bottom of the ninth. Let's look at it that way. I got in, it was the top of the first. Fighting the shorts, I never thought it would go on this long. But you know what? It squeezed twice, finger motion. It went to, I think it went to 10. And the next time it went to 7 before they beat it down with the fake short and distort report. For those who don't know, it's like Andrew left and Hindenburg. We happened to get some idiot called Capybara. I forgot the guy's name, from Brazil. We have the world financial capital, Brazil. They're writing negative stories on finger motion from Brazil. All right, so that just shows you the fraud that's related around Jeff Easton and his buddies. He didn't have the money to pay. I guess he wasn't in the good graces of Hindenburg or Andrew Left. He had to use his own creation, which was Capybara, which is a complete moron. And I told everyone the company sued them, And the lawyer, Mark Bazile, said this idiot showed up in court with an orange tuxedo or some nonsense, jumping up on the desk. They should have arrested him, he said. But again, how is a company going to keep chasing a ghost from Brazil? You'll waste $1 million to get this character. It's the DOJ and the SEC and the FBI's job to lock that guy up, because he's probably done much damage to other companies also. I know friends who bought millions of shares at $7 and they drove it down on their fake report. So we're fighting a whole criminal organization. Piece by piece, they're falling down. You can see that these things are slowing down. The attacks are getting less and less. Whoever's doing this now is just basically trying to get people to bail out so they don't go to jail. So I think all the real smart money is kind of moved to the sideline. And what we have now are rookies, idiots, offshore guys that think that they're not going to get caught. All right, that's what I think we have left in all these names. All right, I think people from New York City, all these names, these big players, okay, people always talk, oh, Stevie Cohen's doing it. They all move to the sidelines. They're smart enough. They have great lawyers and they have connections, and they probably told them, you better get out of the way because this is going to happen. And for those who don't understand, hedge funds, the trade is to the short side was years ago. It's over with. The trade is to the long side now. GameStop proved, squeeze the shorts. The trade is to the long side. It went from 3 3/4 to $550. And for people who don't understand it, GameStop zigged and zagged all the ways up, and then it took off. All right. Sometimes they don't go up in a straight line. I believe finger motion will be a straight line. Once they fold, it's a straight line. It's one naked short seller. He'll fold and it won't stop. I think GBUX is going to be like Root, ROOT. Root went from 7 to 121, crashed back down to 63, and it's been grinding higher. I've talked about it every day on these calls. It's a controlled buy-in by a short, meaning the short is controlling his own buy-in. GameStop was the prime broker pulling the plug on the short sellers. When the prime broker pulls the plug, that means buy you in at the market. There's no they give the order a cigarette and then shoot him. That's how it works when the prime broker gets it. He has no mercy. Just buy it until we are not short anymore. In Root, it's a controlled buy-in. I don't know how big the short is, but it went from 63, bounced up to 83, back to 75, to 90, to 83, and recently exploded up to 140. So the shorts are trying to cover it, and it's getting away from a little bit. I don't know how big the short is anymore. I knew about it years ago. So obviously, once the company went profitable, it became a controlled buy-in. In finger motion, I think they're going to eventually turn to profitability, and you won't get a controlled buy-in only because there's one short seller. Root can have 10 guys short, and they're competing against each other. Once the selling stops, once they stop manipulating the stock on the sell side, that's when you see Root. You can just see it. It goes 110 bid for 10,000. It goes to 111 bid for 10,000, and the offer is gone. There's no stock for sale. No resistance. Just moves up until they find a seller. GameStop, it was buy it at all costs. And I spoke about it because in GameStop, when the stock was 250, there were a lot of guys from San Francisco. I forgot the guy's name. And he was bragging how he was buying the 250 calls in GameStop. There's no way anybody on Wall Street would be chasing a stock that was $3.75, buying the 250 calls, putting $1 million into it, unless he knew that the prime broker was buying somebody in. That's what the whole street knew they were buying somebody in. And those are the people that were chasing it up to 300, paying 350, because they knew someone was buying it in. And they knew once they stopped buying it in, the stock is going to drop like a stone. That always happens on a short squeeze. What do I tell you about a short squeeze? If you're long, always start selling little pieces as it goes up. You never know what the top is going to be. So if you own 1,000 shares, and let's say you own GBUX at 7, When it gets to 20, you sell 100. When it gets to 30, you sell 100. When it gets to 40, you sell 100. When it gets to 50, you sell 200. That means you sold 500 shares, probably average price of 30. 30 minus 7, you made $23, right, on 500 shares. And you have 500 shares to let it go forever. You have all your money off the table, you're profitable, and you know what? If you're broke and you need the money, you sell. But if you want to have fun, you can hold on and sell 100 at 70, 100 at 100, 100 at 200, whatever it may be, wherever it goes. These things take a life of their own. I can't tell you how high it's going to go until the game starts. So please don't ask me that. It hasn't started yet. But it is at $8, so you know it's going to start. It's got to start higher than 8. But it has not started yet. So we'll wait for that to begin, and then we can figure out or formulate some sort of idea where it can go. I can't tell you that right now. I can't tell you that finger motion yet. When it starts, I can tell. All right? But they keep playing down here in finger motion. Again, I just switched channels here. Finger motion, people keep accumulating every day. I know guys buying 10, 20,000 a day. And they keep selling it to them because whoever is here is definitely going to jail. There's not even a question. They can't stop that ride once it starts. And the company's doing everything in its power to get things done. For example, unlike all the other companies, Finger Motion has announced they're doing a special dividend. They're waiting for the audit to be complete. I don't know when the audit's going to be complete, but the CEO thought it'd be mid-December. I'm not an accountant, so I can't really help anybody with that. But I believe that as soon as the audit is done, the CEO will announce it, and everyone will get a dividend share. It's musical chairs for anyone who doesn't understand it. The record date, when they announce it, is the day they stop the music and count up all the investors, all the longs. The brokerage firms, they know how many shares they own. And with a brokerage firm, let's say E-Trade can hit a button and says, okay, internally, E-Trade owns 1 million shares of Finger Motion. They will call the depository trust up to see how many physical shares they have it to back their 1 million share ownership. And the DTC will say, well, E-Trade, we only have 100,000 for you, real shares. E-Trade's going to say, well, we own 1 million. All we have is 100,000 real shares. That means we own 900,000 counterfeit shares. That's how they find out. At that point, the brokerage firm has to get you your dividend. The only way to get it is to hold it short. All right, the guy who sold him the stock has to deliver him a dividend. That's when it gets interesting. Before, the brokerage firms play games, but with Elon Musk in here now, we will address it and make sure they expose it and let them know what happens with a special dividend. Pat Byrne, did a special dividend of a crypto. He was the only one to get that done. And his stock went, I owned it at 30. It went from 30 to 3. I got wiped out. Then he did the dividend. It went from 3 to 128. The dividends do work. And I told everyone about Dole Foods. Dole Foods was acquired by the CEO. He took it private. They added up. Everyone sued the company because he bought the company at $10. It should have been valued at $15 or whatever. They settled on a lawsuit. The CEO had to pay everyone who owned the stock $2.75. All you had to do was show your statement. $2.75 is a lot of money if you own 10,000 shares or 5,000 shares. Why not show your statement and say, I owned Dole Foods at that time. I'm entitled to my dividend. Well, guess what? When everybody presented their shares, their statements, there were 13.5 million extra shareholders. The CEO even said in the courtroom, who are these people? We only have 36 million shares. How did all these other shareholders show up? We had 49 when it came out to pay. Because I'm not paying 13 million people $2.75 a share. The brokerage firms, the DTC, had to swallow that pride. They have a slush fund. I knew about that type of activity in 1999. The law firm of Morgan Lewis Bacchius told us the SEC did a white paper on what happens when a company gets acquired. What happens to the naked short selling? It was so complicated, they just said, screw it, and never did anything about it. I knew about that in 1999. I never got the white paper. We tried, but we didn't get it. So we knew. So when Dole Foods happened, we knew about that years ago. Okay? For those who don't know me, I've been doing this since 2000. It's 2025, 25 years. A lot of my friends have passed away. I protested in Times Square. I put the truck in front of the SEC. You name it, I done it. And here it is. We finally got the gate open where we, the inmates, can run the asylum now. Not the criminals. We're going to run the place. And we're right there. And Elon Musk and Donald Trump are telling you it's coming. So you figure out the best way for you to profit from it. I don't care if it's GameStop, ABC, whatever you want to play. Peloton, it could be Beyond Meats, it could be TLLY, it could be Kodak. There's hundreds of names. I'm drilling it down to a few names that I want to make a lot of money in. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be an expert on the names that I follow. GBUX was by accident. All I heard about GBUX, it was going to be a big play in 2025. I had no idea it was going to turn into this. But it has. And now that I see it, now I'm sitting there saying, okay, I'm long. Let's torture these guys. They deserve it. So that's why that happened. It was an accident. So again, I'm waiting for the company to start putting out their business plan. I'm waiting for the people supposedly at Goldman Sachs to do something. I don't know them, but let's see what it is. I have no idea. But the stock has gone straight up. There's someone short. They're upside down. And the other day they were calling around looking for stock. So it's at the end. And the attack tells me they're doing anything to buy some more time. You would do the same thing. Everyone on this phone call would do the same thing to live another day. And that's what they tried to do. So if they are listening, we have a plan for you tomorrow. Fuck you. We're not going away. All right, everyone. I tried to make it short and sweet. I have a dinner appointment that I have to make at 5 o'clock. And I just wanted, William, any questions? Does anyone have anything they want to say?
Well, I mean, who goes first? Wenger, GBUX?
It could, listen, it could be, it could be DJT. If DJT goes, we all go. Right? I personally, I don't know. GBUX to me looks like it's ready to go this week. I don't know. It just has that feeling.
How
the
high
attack
can
tells me.
How high can
I can't tell you until it starts to go. I just said that.
Should we be placing limit orders underneath GBUX?
You can do it. I just told you what my friends are doing. We're stopping at 8. We're going to get as much as we have to do, stand there and say, okay, Turkey, what do you want to do? Now, we'll be standing above it. We'll stand below it. We'll buy more on both sides. But we're not going to chase it to 9. We're not sitting here trying to chase it to 9. Chasing it to 9 is the short seller's problem. We want him to do it. We want him to take it to 9, to 10, to 12, because once it makes that move, looks like at $9, it looks like he's going to have to take the gun out of the drawer and put it in his mouth and blow his brains out. These guys are criminals. So for those of you who say to me on Twitter all the time, why don't you be nice? There's nothing to be nice about. I have a family. You have a family, and I'm protecting my interests. I don't give a fuck who they are. They go into jail. No one steals from me. I was taught that a long time ago growing up in Brooklyn. All right? You don't get robbed. I'm not getting robbed. Don't be that punk that lets people... I'm not letting anyone rob him. If you're standing in the street and the guy comes over to Jeff Easton with a gun or something, with a knife, and I have a baseball bat, I'm taking a big swing before he shoots me. Trust me.
Is there a hedge fund that will come into GBUX to push it higher to cause them?
I know two players that are here. I can't tell them pushing it higher. I can't listen. There's no guarantees in any of this stuff, but there's people here that can see what's going on. There's professional people here. This isn't like Ma and Pa playing the stock. There's professional people here. What do I mean by professional? People that got 30 years experience trading stocks versus criminals. We know how to do it. Anything else, Liam?
Well, there's one I don't understand.
Just move it along. Next one, go. Let's move. I got to leave.
I'm looking. When do you get your dogs?
Wednesday. Great question. That's the best question of the day.
What are you going to call them?
I don't know. We'll figure it out. Frickin' frack. I don't know. We'll see them and we'll make a determination then. I'll show everybody a picture when I get them. I still can't believe my dog passed away.
Well,
I still can't
I
believe it.
know it's horrible. I just got
Still
something.
can't believe it. Still can't believe
I
it.
just opened something about the grief that goes through it. You're not done. It'll pop up. Why tell the crooks your plan? You know they're listening.
And we want them to know. Listen, we're going to have the law on our side. We can talk from a position of strength. Who are they going to call? The FBI, the DOJ? Knock yourself out, buddy. Yeah, hey, how you doing? We sold 2 million shares of this stock. We can't buy it back. Can you help us out? Sure. People, I put up a couple of stocks. I even put that stock drug, DRUG. It was $1.30. In 3 days or 4 days, it went to 80. These things happened all the time. I keep trying to show you this stuff. These things, it was trading no volume. It was trading 2,000 shares at $1.38. The next thing was trading at 80. These are expresses. That's what I see here. So if it was trading 2,000 shares a day, how big was the naked short? It wasn't that big, right? The difference between a DJT, finger motion, and GBUX, and it's a great point to look at. GBUX, the naked short average is 1.7 million at $2.20. The stock is almost $7.50. So let's say they're down $5, just to round it out. They're down $5 already without buying back one share. Down 5. Finger motion, the short squeeze number is around 4. It's the opposite. They're up 3. DJT, the short squeeze trigger number is 44. They're up 14 there. And I went back in time, GameStop, which I reported at $375, the short average was around, I'll say something between $18 and $21. I gotta say $20. The shorts are in the black, $17 in the black. And they got wiped out. That shows you how devastating this is once they begin. But the thing about GBUX is that they're already in the black. They're in the red $5 already. They're in the red $5 already. Just think about that. They're already dangling in the alligator pit already. They're in trouble already.
So how did the naked short get 2 more shorts to come in on Friday to help?
Listen. For the gentleman that's asking that, when you buy a stock, what do? You tell your 2 friends? They did the same thing. Only thing is the 2 friends that came in to help them out are trying to cover. They're going to get out quickly because this is not their game. If I jumped in and sold 10,000 shares, I would call them up, hey, thank you very much. I made $1 on it.
Would they lie to them? Would they?
So here, short sellers, so if anyone doesn't know, I watched it happen. I watched a guy who was short a stock, not a big short seller, but a short. He was short something. He was short, I think, 1 million shares of stock, and it was going against him. I watched the guy go on the phone and tell all his hedge fund buddies to go short his name. And he gave him the story that he believed. The only thing that was different, as the guys came in shorting it, he was buying it because he knew he couldn't get out. And I was there when a guy called back and says, hey, this stock acts pretty good. He goes, nah, don't worry about it. And the guy kept trying to sell it. He sold 50,000 shares short, and he bought it. So he was basically trapping his friends, taking the liability off his own books and sticking his friends. And I watched it happen. They all do that. So this guy could have roped somebody in here, and you know why? It's a small potato. It doesn't make a difference. But they all do that. What else we got, William? Anything else?
Just some names for your dog that aren't particularly good.
Well, listen, everyone, I have to run to dinner. I have to drive 15 minutes to get to the restaurant and meet the gentleman, and he's a great shareholder, and I have to run, and I apologize. I just wanted to update you for Mondays. Think about what's going on.
So what should people do tomorrow? Just watch or?
Well, listen, it's up to you. You know, we're not chasing it. We're standing right around 8. So if you wanted to buy something in GBUX, you buy 10% or 20%, whatever it is. If you wanted to buy a finger motion, it's doing nothing. Finger motion to me is a stock that's going sideways, doing nothing. So, all right, listen, I have to run, William. I apologize. You can stay on a little bit, but I have to run.
Thanks for stopping by.
You got it. You got it.
All right, you're left with me. I fly Delta. That's terrible. Yeah. A little about Real F. They were supposed to make an announcement. Let me think. There's so many stories. I didn't know they were supposed to make an announcement. But let me think. Maybe I'm just forgetting something, but I didn't. I mean, they made an announcement, but you're saying there was one that they were supposed to make after that? Let me just show you what they did say. I won't read the whole thing because a lot of people know what it says, but I'll just call your attention to a couple of points on it. All right. So 6 days ago, they announced that they're going to acquire AI Partnerships Corp. Now, my opinion, Steve, this headline, this is exactly how the headline reads. Railtown AI Technologies announces MOU, capital letters, to acquire AI Partnerships Corp. Well, you're a human being, I'm a human being. We can't really think like a computer, because I'm not sure computers think, but the computer that's set up to read all headlines on all stocks for some short criminal fund, or some real, maybe some real shorts, that computer reads that headline, and they read all the headlines every day. They read that headline, they see MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. So what are two or maybe three things that means to not so much to the computer, but to the programmer who set up the program? It means it's an agreement, but it's not final, number one. Number two, it means they're going to need money. They're going to raise money, in all likelihood. 99% of the time, it involves money and issuing shares. And number three, if the computer sets up automatic selling, it's likely that whomever the computer is selling for is going to be able to give that pot of money from selling shares that don't exist to a banker for newly issued shares, which will pay for the deal. And I guess number four is if they sell enough shares that don't exist, they can clear the deal, and that will make it a profitable trade as well. Sorry for yawning. So anyway, what they announced is MOU to buy this Toronto-based company, which has established an affiliate network of over 160 artificial intelligence software, I guess, as a service companies. And they focus on revenue. 13 countries, one of the objectives was to allow the company, the one they're acquiring, to identify and acquire the best affiliates as part of a broader strategic roll-up strategy. That's what I think Railtown is now stepping into, that roll-up strategy. And was Railtown going to prove up its conductor product and then sell itself as a whole company? Or was it going to hang out and keep getting additional contracts? Who knows? But one sort of a supra strategy now is to do this roll-up acquisition. They're going to do affiliate acquisitions, platform integration. They're going to expand partnerships, and they're focused on recurring revenue. And then they give quotes from the. Both companies are working toward finalizing a letter of intent, which is also not final acquisition, to formalize the acquisition in the coming weeks. I'm sure there's computers out there that see that LOI, they start selling. The acquisition is expected to position Railtown to capitalize on the rapidly expanding demand for AI solutions in a bunch of sectors. And I thought I read that they said they're going to buy 3 or 4 companies at a time, but maybe I didn't read that. I read so many things. Yeah, I don't see that. That must have been something else. Anyway, the news talks about revenue, which is important. I was unaware of anything further they were meant to announce. If you're aware of something, the only thing I can think of is further updates on this announcement, or maybe they do have contracts that they need to get out there. I don't know. We'll find out. Nothing is going on with GTII that matters. Hey, Ronnie. I don't know how to get a hold of J.R. Ewing. I guess I can see if that's in my contacts. It's a lot of juniors in my contact. All right, I'll think about how I can do that, Donna. I don't mean to be dismissive. I think there's decisions you have to make. But in terms of where you should be focusing your attention right now, I don't think it's there. There's a new CEO potentially with a I guess a company that could have great revenues. It's got a model, I think, that has some sort of media aspect to it, an AI aspect to it. We could go through all sorts of scenarios about it. If that CEO And if the investors behind him want to give you something for free, for example, we'll roll our company in and we'll only take 51% of the NewCo, they'll be giving you something for free. Then you should stand up and salute. Odds are they're not going to do that, but you can stay focused on it, constantly bring it up. The odds are you're going to get at most 5 to 10, maybe 15% of a NewCo. By the time the monies come in to finance that, it's probably going to be 7.5%. I would think it'll be structured in a way that the money gets out first. So you're in the last position. There's lawsuits, there's delays, there's lawyers. But it could, I'm not saying that there aren't people with good motives in the world. And if the new CEO and the whales want you and me to get a big bunch, keep a big bunch of the shell for free, that'll be awesome. And then you have a chance to make your money back. More likely is a company's going to come in and they're going to come to us, because I think there's 700 of us, which is attractive to a private company going into a show, and ask for more money. And then you'll have a new decision to make. I could invest in GTII again, and I have a chance to get this kind of upside, and here's the story, and wow, sounds great, I'm going to do it. In the meantime, I think you're hearing some stories that give you a better use for the money. My opinion, Hakeem, if you don't own any physical silver, you shouldn't be talking about anything else. Just go buy 100 ounces, order it, get it. I think Railtown is a fundamental story that also has a squeeze to it. Finger Motion seems to have some things going on. My opinion is you could double, triple, quadruple your money, which could lead to more, and thinks it could be very quickly something. There's risk in all of these, of course. I also think you can look at GBUX tomorrow, but GBUX is already $8. I kick myself. I don't have 100 shares, but basically I have 100 shares. If I had used that, if I had gone ahead and made that decision a month ago, I'd have 1,000 shares and I could just be liquidating it now. But I don't. I got in it because it's a chance, I think, to experience a squeeze if a squeeze happens. GTII is just blah, 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 blah. What happened with GTII? What's going on with GTII? What happened with it? You guys were promoting it now, blah, 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 over and over and over and over again. GTII was a piece of shit company who did a deal with a piece of shit couple of brothers who the company then bought that note back. Those brothers had, with their 6 clients that all went to the same place of worship together, those 6 or 7 people apparently shorted 100, 200 million shares, and there was a squeeze potential. But as those 2 brothers got in trouble, the monies behind the criminals, they took over the position. It looks like it was Alpine. Alpine called in favors from bankers, from other shorts. They moved the trades around. It looks like they sabotaged the squeeze that was going on by hiring Frank Benedetto, Lou Bravo, and Gus Fliakos of COSM. hey, that's the thing. They're going to battle, they're going to fight, they're going to do whatever they can. They stopped the squeeze if there was one happening, and then they just sold it down, down, down with more shares that didn't exist. Alpine filed a lot of lawsuits. It went from judge to judge to judge. Time went by. Hurry is either dating his secretary or celebrating with his daughter, and his wife runs this other securities firm. Time has gone by. They hire the same lawyers that also work for the SEC, and GTII goes down, 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 down. Then, during that period, the CEO, a guy named Reichman, hires somebody out of a hedge fund in Chicago that handles derivatives. This person named Lou Rhubarb, for some reason, wants to leave or affix to his CV that he's gone to work for this piece of shit company called GTII and doing something for it, putting his whole career at risk. For what? Well, turns out he's a derivatives guy. He might be there to help out the shorts. Meanwhile, GTII over the 2 years had focused on many, many things to catch out the criminal shorts, from NFTs to coins to companies they were acquiring, a law firm, and a mining company called Trento Mines. All of these various different things got waylaid either by FINRA, the SEC, or by their own actions. So then the whales hired an attorney out of Arizona, I don't know that attorney's name, who brought in a guy that became the receiver, and that attorney went after records of the Kramers, sorry, not the Kramers, Alpine and Reichman, and they found out that Reichman, apparently, according to documents, was selling shares, giving away shares, using GTII as his personal piggy bank to have a Rolls Royce, to donate 35 million shares to a charity, to bail out his daughter, all manner of things. So they put the company in receivership. It's been in receivership. I don't know, Hakeem, how familiar you are with bankruptcy and receivership. I'm not. I'm a putz. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school, so I'm not smarter than anybody else. I don't deserve to get paid for taking a crap while I represent someone. I am not a lawyer. I'm not that exalted personage of lawyer. But I have gone through it hiring lawyers, and I've gone through the procedures, and what I know is once you're in the legal system, it's like a whole different physics. It's a whole mind-numbingly different world where you're going, what's going on? How can I make money? When it goes to the court system, the lawyers are, number one, they're representing the creditors. Number two, they want to get paid. They're only thinking of themselves. Number three, they want to win. And number four, shareholders are last. Now, it may be possible, and I didn't listen to the call, but I listened to a number of people, talked to people who listened to the last call. It may be totally possible that this AI university company, the CEO of that sounds like a good guy. I guess Ham introduced him, or somehow Ham knew him. And I don't know the causation of who zoomed who, but that guy may actually be working on, I've been told, may be there to work on our side, which is fantastic. People have good motives in the world. The team of money and brains behind GTI on the good guys' side may be working to make money for us, but asking every single bloody day, what is up with it? Why, Hakeem? Why? Let me ask you something, Hakeem. You just listen to somebody give you an idea that might make money for you. It may not if you don't do it. It's risky because it's already $8. But instead, what you'd like to talk to about is a dead company that's trading on the expert market. You don't know what the real bid and the ask is. It's all fraud. And what are you going to do? Buy it? Sell it? It's all fraud. You, of course, don't have time to read the receiver's reports. You can Google them. You can go to the SEC website, but you don't have time. You don't read English. It would be better just to talk about it. What's going on with GTII? I think it's possible. There's a real estate guy who I've met, and he came down and walked, kind of walked the halls of Congress for a little while, but he also came down and bought me dinner on a separate trip. And young guy, real, hardworking. And he sent out a summary of the Trento mine deal. Maybe Trento mine wants to go in and make a proposal before the receivership. And if you have two companies making proposals, maybe we get a better deal. But Hakeem, typically, if there's a over-the-counter shell available, a company could pay anything from $100,000, maybe as much as $500,000. Unlikely. Or if it's a deal brokered by the receiver, there's probably 5 to 10% going to the brokers of the NewCo, and 5%, maybe 10%, it's subject to negotiation, coming to us, the shareholders of the shell. In this case, you've got please, why are people so stubborn on focusing on a stock they lost everything in and they didn't act on when I was telling them? And of course, I gave an idea that didn't work out that well itself. There's no hope, Hakeem, for you making anything back on GTII in terms of profit that makes you happy. You might end up with, let's just use round numbers, 10%. Not 5%, not 7.5%, but also not 15%. You might end up, me too, with 10% of a new company. Unless the whales want to give us something for free. What are the odds of that? But all right. Let's say the CEO that's rolling in his company and the whales want to give us 50% of the NewCo. Wow. Okay, 50%. I don't know what you paid for your GTII, but there's 350 million shares of GTII, let's say, after the receiver clause back, and the lawyers. It's not just the receiver doing the work. It's the lawyers. The receiver is just someone the court appointed. The lawyer out of Arizona is doing a lot of the work. Don't know her name or his name. I don't want to take away from his hard work. Let's say they claw back 150 million shares, leaves 350 million shares. Let's say this new company comes in and it just out of the gate, let's assume this new company is worth, what do you think? Just out of the gate. This is a piece of shit company in terms of Wall Street. I'm not saying it's a bad company in terms of the team that built it and the guy that's bringing it. He sounds like a really good CEO. What I mean is nobody on Wall Street has ever heard of this company. He can't obviously raise money as a public company. Hence, he wants to roll into a public company. There's nobody on Wall Street falling over themselves to take him public, is my point. Okay, so he apparently doesn't have contacts around Wall Street to buy a shell. If his company's doing so well, why doesn't he just go buy a shell and own the whole thing? Cost him $250,000. Better yet, he could buy a NASDAQ shell maybe for $500,000. Yeah, but he doesn't have that available. So what's available to him is GTII. What does he like about GTII? Well, he knows some of the whales that invested in GTII, one. Two, he likes the fact there's 700 shareholders, and that's really valuable. Okay, so those are good aspects. Now, he might like the fact that the shell is going to come through the receivership clean. It's going to be cleansed. He might like that. I would. There's no lingering lawsuits, no lingering threat of entanglement. So he might like that. So he might be able to give us 50% because he's feeling generous. He could go buy a dozen shell companies, giving those shareholders 15%, 10%. But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to give us 50%. I'm making that up, by the way. I don't believe he does. But let's say he does want to give us 50%. He likes it because the shell's been cleansed. He likes it because the shell has 700 shareholders. He likes it because the whales are coming in along with us, and he figures he can come to all of us to raise money. These are the reasons he's willing to give us 50%. Now, let's assume he needs money. Because if he had money, he wouldn't be coming to us. So let's assume he needs money. Where is he going to go get the money? From us? Maybe. And that's an opportunity. The other place he'll probably get money from is the whales. Now, are the whales going to put up money for nothing? Probably not. Now, if the whales don't do it and he goes to other investors, what are they going to ask for? Probably a lot more. Let's just assume it's the whales that put up the money. So let's say the whales ask for, I don't know how much money. I don't know the use of proceeds. I don't know anything. I'm just making up numbers here. But let's say the whales put up money, negotiate, and they take an additional half for the new money. They take another 25%. So the company plus the whales own 75% of Newco. We're left with 25%. What do you think that this company, AIversity, is going to be worth out of the gate? I don't know either. So one thing is we let it they give us a chance to invest alongside. We let it come out, and this AI-versity has revenues, and it's growing so quickly and rapidly. And maybe other companies want to roll into it, and maybe it's a buyout, and the excitement is enormous, and all of a sudden investors come in, and the revenues are growing hand over fist, and the stock goes to the moon because of its fundamentals. How long do you think that's going to take? I would guess anything in those lines will take at least 18 months to 3 years, but maybe it's very quick, takes 9 months. Okay, let's put that in one side as a possibility. What's another possibility? They come out of the gate, they need money. The whales have already come in, but now the company needs money. And let's say they go to Jeff Lind at Easton Partners. Well, then you know what happens then. We're screwed. It's just a game of musical chairs as you keep asking what's going on. Okay, what's another possibility? This AI company is better than hundreds of others of AI companies, and Goldman Sachs decides to run a research report, give them $100 million, and take them to the next level. How much are we going to own? If it happens quickly, not much. If it takes 3, 4, 5 years, well, maybe we'll still have a big piece. Do you hear me? 3, 4, 5 years? Now that's if it's this AI university company, AI-versity. What if it's Toronto Mines that wins the deal? There's some potential with Toronto Mines because it's in the gold, silver, other rare earths area, and there are structures of deals that could immediately add in the ground value that's $10, $12, $20, $30 a share. Now, you need to raise money to prove that up, but the question, as ever, is dilution. And the Toronto guys have an idea that the extremely large short position in GTII will be available to cause a squeeze, which will help raise money to go, a little like GME. GME raised money. Now they have stores in every dying and failing shopping center across the country, and that's a great business plan. AMC, they raised money in the short squeeze, and now they show movies of 140-pound women taking on 300-pound men and winning because, hey, the future is female. So it works. The idea is you get a squeeze, they raise that money, they go develop a gold mine in South America. It's a concept. But here's one of the flaws with that concept. Do we know the short position will survive the receivership? The exact same thing that cleanses GTII as it leaves the receivership may very well cleanse GTII of the short obligation, of the shorts, parentheses, S obligations. Why? They have attorneys too. I don't know. It's a whole different world. But let's get back to the example. Let's say we have 25% of NewCo, and let's say it's AI-versity. And let's say it's gangbusters. This is AI on a level nobody's ever thought of, and it just happens that Wall Street hasn't heard of it yet, and it's a media and it's Wall Street education, it's information, and let's just say it takes off like a son of a bitch. What do you think it's going to be worth? Let's say it's worth $1 billion right out of the gate. $1 billion. We have 25% of that. I'm ignoring what goes to the receiver. I'm ignoring what goes to the lawyers. I'm ignoring what goes to the judge. I'm ignoring any kind of commission deals or other people come in. We just own 25%. So that means to our interests in this fantasy land that I'm creating, we own $250 million worth of GTII. How many shares are outstanding? Well, right now, 350 million, and because my example already included diluting the percentages, let's just stick with 350 million. So it's 250 million in dreamland. 250 million divided by 350 million, 71 cents a share. 71 cents a share in just bloody dreamland. But you want to take time to talk about that when you have a chance. And I didn't do it, Hakeem. I didn't do it. But for 3 or 4 or 5, 6 weeks, Ham talked about GBUX when it was 73 cents, 71 cents, 78 cents, 80 cents, 85 cents, $1, 95 cents, $1.20, came back. I didn't do it. I didn't buy anything because my brain is all over the place. I'm listening. I'm not believing. I'm like, every other deal didn't work, which I think is fair enough. But instead of spending time when there's real live ideas to make money, instead, if I did all of my calls talking about GTII, I might as well, you know what? I should do my calls on GTII, MMAT, MULN, COSM, GNS, I'm missing one. CRTD. I could add KMWN, another Jeff Lind special. Let's just talk about stocks that have been destroyed, and then let's just dream that we didn't make the mistake of not selling. I bought GTII. I didn't sell it when it was up. Rode it all the way back down. I made sales on the margin when, for example, I impulsively bought COSM and broke even, impulsively bought MMTLP. But otherwise, I wrote it up, rolled it down. Why? Because I believed in the squeeze story, the home run, the grand slam. And now I'm going to spend the next 3 years thinking, wow, I'm going to make my money back in GTII. That's how I got to make it back in GTII. I have to make my money back in GTII. How am I going to make it back in GTII? I'm not going to listen to any other stories. I've got to make it back in GTII. How am I going to do that? It's a lot of money. I got crushed. I lost so much money. I've got to make it back in GTII. I can't accept the fact that I lost money in GTII. I have to make it back in GTII. Darn it, why did I ever buy into that? Why didn't I sell? I've got to make it back in GTII. The only way I'm going to make my life whole again is if I make my money back in GTII. The only way I can make money back in GTII is I keep asking about it. I don't want to listen to William when he said when it was 80 cents, when it was 90 cents, when it was $1.20, when it was 40 cents, when it was 30 cents. He was saying that, maybe it's a good source of tax loss selling. Yeah, because, he came up with that really equally bad idea, as it turns out, of logic, although there were other ideas that he mentioned at the time. But the one he emphasized was the data logic spinoff, which turned out to be just as bad because the people supporting it think their system's in place and that somehow Aubrey Advisors is more honest than Jeff Lind. But the only thing I can do is make it back in GTII. How am I going to make it back? How am I have a chance to ask questions. I've got to ask about GTII. It's dead in the water. You've got lawyers working on it. You've got receivers working on it. You've got judges asking for a cut of it. The judge system, the bankruptcy system, the receiver system in many jurisdictions is set up as a profit center for the bleeding court. But I got to ask, I got to be on it. That stock, I could have sold it. I was ignoring it and I was hanging on. I wasn't listening to advice. But now that there's no bid, and there's a bid and ask that you can't trust and you can't see, I'm going to get interested. And when I have a chance on these lives, I'm going to ask for an update on GTII because that's the best use of Hakim Islam's time. Let me put it in numbers, Hakim. I just converted whatever crappy position I had, and I bought 99 shares of GBUX, which, is probably impulsive, probably has all the risks in the world, $800. I lost a lot of money in CRTD. In Finger, I got wiped out while I was doing a video, Time Life video, and I lost money, hell of a lot of money in GTII. But I'm going to spend my time on every bit of minutia going on in GTII. Every bit of minutia, because if I don't know it and think about it and process it, it's not going to take its own course for when I do have a decision to make. I'm going to have a decision to make on GTII when the receivership is over. But until then, I'm just gonna make sure that when the lives come on, we'll talk about GTII, which is completely dead money. All right, so instead of that, Hakim, if I had put $800, if I had had my brain on, and if I had been in fighting trim, instead of negativity, instead of depression, and I said, you know what? I'm going to gamble $800 on GBUX at 80 cents. Ham's full of shit. He's been wrong 6 times out of 7, or whatever the hell negativity you want to dump on it. But you know what? This story, apparently it's Goldman Sachs. Apparently it's going to go up this year. Well, what the hell? If I'd put 800 in at 80 cents, right now I'd have $8,000. Now, I lost more than that in GTII. I don't know how much you lost in GTII. But just that kind of awareness in the game, a little bit of fighting spirit. Instead of burying myself in, oh gosh, I lost so much money in GTII. What's going on with GTII? What's happening with GTII? So what's the news with GTII? What could happen with GTII? Nothing's happened with GTII in a year. And is something happening with GTII right now? I know William tells me that it's in the expert market and there's really no bid and ask. And if I get a trade-off, that means that I'm being screwed as long as it's in the expert market. And right now it's with the receiver, and it could take 90 days, it could take 6 months. And there's a receivership isn't just us, it's the other side as well, and whatever gets processed has to go through the judge. And but you know what, I'm going to pay attention to it, I'm going to ask questions on it, I'm going to get so involved in it, because if I don't know every detail, something bad might happen. I didn't pay attention to GTII before, but I'm going to make sure now I do. I'm not going to read the SEC website. I'm not going to get on the information list to receive emails directly from the receiver. I'm going to ask, what's going on with GTII? Well, in my case, if I put $800 in GBUX, probably it would have gone down if I did it. But if I put $800 in GBUX a month ago, instead of getting negatively suppressed in all of this stuff that you should just write off for the time being, I'd have $8,000. Now, I personally didn't have the money, but if I had, maybe I'd put 8,000 in it. Right now, I'd have 80 grand. Now you're starting to get me back to what I lost, but I wouldn't have done that. But what I'm saying to you, Hakeem, is while you waste your brain power and your emotions, there's other opportunities to make money. The only way you're going to make money in GTII is if they ask you for a new investment. And then you're going to have to make a decision, just like GBUX. And here's your decision. Hey, it's an AI company. We have revenue projections. You know what I do with projections? I rip them up. They're worthless. I've seen thousands of projections in my life. They're all crap. But that's what you'll have. We are the new company that has rolled into GTII. And Hakeem, trust me, it won't be 50-50. You and I will have, at best, we'll have 10% of NewCo, maybe 15%. So when I gave you those numbers before, we'll have 100 million if it's worth $1 billion. That's candy cane, unicorn thinking that this is somehow going to be worth this much money. A company with that kind of potential would not be rolling into GTII. I mean, maybe they can get there. I don't know. I've heard good things about the CEO. I don't want to detract from that. But I mean, why is it going to happen? If there's a $1 billion company out there, why isn't, I don't know, there's no investment banks anymore. Why doesn't Alex Brown take them public? But anyway, let's say it's worth $1 billion. We have 10%, ignoring friction and costs, 100 million. There's 340 million. Let's call it 400 million. Yeah, it might be worth 25 cents to us. But let's spend hours, Hakeem. Every time I go live, ask me about GTII. Because if we don't address it, we might miss out on something. What are you going to miss out on? You're going to miss out on you could have sold the stock for tax loss reasons. That's back when I thought people could do their own thinking. That's back when I thought people like you could do their own thinking. I think there's going to be at least 2 companies making offers to shareholders to come into GTII, which is really a blessing. It's a very good thing. It might mean we get in the negotiation that we get to own a bigger percentage of, let's call it NewCo. I think there's a lot of men and women, men of goodwill trying to make it happen and make money for everybody. I don't think I'm the only person pissed off on behalf of shareholders. There's other people out there too. So, please keep asking every day and show it the attention that you never showed it before. But the odds are it's going to take at least another 90 days, probably another 6 months. You've got to process the 2 offers. You've got to put the proposals before the shareholders. You've got to put it before the receiver. You've got to answer any objections from the bad guys. You've got to strike the financial deal. The financials have to be filed on behalf of the company. Maybe the company starts trading again. Hopefully, when the company starts trading again, the Hurries and Alpine and the Kramers stop shorting it, but who knows, they might keep shorting it because they know the whole thing is going to need money, and therefore if they can suppress the stock price, they can make sure that anything good coming in on a per share basis is worthless. But let's, Hakeem, keep talking about GTII. Please. Please. Now, I'm worked up because it's a waste of time talking about it on such little information. When there is a decision to be made, we will have information, and then I do think it's worth the time to consider what's in front of us. There are too many known unknowns, unknown unknowns, and factors beyond our control right now that it even matters what the hell is going on with GTII. But please, Hakeem, don't consider investing in silver. Don't consider investing in RLAIF. Don't consider investing in GBUX. Don't consider anything at all until GTII is somehow resurrected. Please only focus on GTII. This channel from now on will be a GTII channel. It's the only thing I'm going to talk about. The only thing I want to talk about is GTII. I found all along that when I talked about GTII, people really listened to me. When I gave indications, I'd have to go back and listen to my own videos, but I think I started in the $3 range, twos, ones, and under, saying, you know, this might be a good time to sell that, take a 30-day tax loss. Now, unfortunately, this criminality happens in all stocks. And I allowed myself to be convinced, particularly by a gentleman who had a real background in enforcement at the American Stock Exchange, that he knew what he was recommending. And I'm not blaming him. I'm not blaming him. But I made my own efforts at learning information, but it made sense that a group called Aubrey Advisors and Shadron Financial would be sponsors of a SPAC called DLQ, which was the logic trade. Well, that was all a setup as well, just like the Hurries and the Kramers did with, and the Reichmans, it looks like, did with the GTII. And these stocks get crushed. And so the fight comes, just like we did with GTII, for a year and a half, 2 years, throwing every kind of thing that could be thrown at it to try to cause a short squeeze. Every step of the way, the bad guys had an answer. Every step of the way, they kept selling. And I've said this, Hakeem, I was asked, not directly, but through channels, to be CEO of GTII, and I agreed. And then I heard a little bit of what was going on. Nothing firm, nothing firm. The Trento deal was still out there. The acquisition of the law firm was still out there. There was one other thing I can't remember that was under consideration. But then I got a wind of this guy, Rhubarb, coming in. I got a wind of this arrogant CEO named Reichman fighting for his job and to put it politely, palace intrigue. And I warned everybody. I said, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure what's going on. Maybe this is the time. But Hakeem, because you weren't paying attention, or when you listened to my tone, you figured the best thing was to hang on to the stock. Just hang on. And then when it's virtually untradeable, when it's essentially seller boxed, when it's essentially bankrupt, then you'll start paying attention to it. So you can hold me accountable, I guess. So you can actually do the superhuman. You alone amongst all investors in the world, by your focus and your hopes, are going to turn a penny stock. I don't even know what the bid is, but let's say it's a penny. You're gonna get 100% return on that. 500%, 10,000%, 10, whatever that is. You're going to get a stock that's worth a penny To go, do you know for a stock that's worth a penny, Hakeem, to go to 2 pennies, do you know what that rate of return is? You're right, 100%. Do you know how often a stock goes up 100% quickly? Not very often, you're right, Hakeem. Do you know what 1 penny going to 10 cents would be? 1,000%? That would be like a stock going from $1 to $10, 10x. Do you know how often that happens, Hakeem? Particularly after when with GTII, the first story was you had, to my memory, you had 35 million shares outstanding, something like that. It might have been so many stories. But you only had 10 or 15 million shares in the float. And you had this huge short position. Huge. 50 or 60 million shares versus something like 10 or 15 million in the float. And then 3 years later, when you want to take attention to it, you've got something like 750 million shares authorized and 450 million shares outstanding. Who knows what the short is? It's all been moved offshore. It's all with the hurries. It's all in the Caribbean. It's all in wherever the hell. The surprise is gone. Every gimmick has been tried, yet you want me to spend time on it. Well, I just did. I just spent time on it. It's 5:50. I'm going to sign out. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Hakeem, I hope I answered your questions.